Hey guys, today's video is about bodyscape photography. Now this is something that a lot of people are curious about, but not everybody is quite sure how to get into it, especially if you haven't done things like artistic nudes or figure studies. Even bodyscape photography, which doesn't, really focus on the whole form, even this can be a little intimidating if you haven't done it before. So in today's video, I'm going to try to give you a few tips that will hopefully encourage you to give this type of photography a try. It's just really a cool way to make artistic images with the human form, okay? Now there's only a couple of things that you really have to know. There's two really important things about bodyscape photography. The rest of it will just kind of come naturally as you go along. You'll just pick up things as you work on this kind of stuff. All right, the first thing I want to talk about is, how do you find someone to pose for you? Like what makes a good model for bodyscape photography? All right, keep in mind that bodyscape images are all about light and shadow and form and shape and texture and things like that. You're really creating abstract images using the human form, right? So there's no one perfect body type, and there's a lot more room to work with, in terms of what you're trying to achieve, depending on the types of images that you're going for. Just about anybody can be a good candidate for your bodyscape model. Now, if you plan to incorporate other types of photography during your bodyscape shoot, like artistic nudes, portraiture, boudoir type stuff, then you're going to have to find someone who's going to fit all of that. But when it comes to just bodyscapes, you're just using parts of the form. You're trying to discover little areas on the form that might make a good bodyscape. Okay, that might seem pretty obvious, but I have to put it out there. Now, as far as getting someone to pose for you, that might be a little more of a challenge depending on who you know. You might know somebody who's just willing to work with you, even if they don't have a lot of experience. They're just willing to get in front of your camera with little or nothing on, so that you all can sort of collaborate and experiment and come up with these cool bodyscapes. But if you don't have something like that, and if you just want to work with somebody with a little more experience, I suggest that you do. I really think that working with somebody who's got some experience posing for images like this is going to make things a lot easier on you, especially if you're just starting out. Your shoots are going to be a little more productive. You're going to learn stuff a little faster with somebody who can strike classic poses and hold those poses. Somebody who knows what they're doing, who's comfortable in front of the camera. They can help you out too. They can give you some tips, or just by the mere fact that they know what poses to strike, and then you can just work around that. That's going to be a big help. It's definitely going to be a lot easier than working with somebody who doesn't know what to do, and you also don't quite know what to do. It's the blind leading the blind, right? Now let's talk a little bit about backgrounds and environment. Okay, now I do basically two types of bodyscapes. I do low-key stuff and high-key stuff, right? The low-key stuff is, you're using darker backgrounds, using a lot of shadow. Light is really there to give cues about the contour of the form that you're working with, and help emphasize the texture of the skin. When it comes to high-key work, you're using a light-colored background, and everything else is just lighter and airier. So yeah, a lot of it has to do with the background, and a lot of it has to do with lighting. And where lighting is concerned, that's one of the two most important things that I was talking about at the beginning of the video. Lighting is definitely one of those two most important things. Well, isn't that always true in photography? Lighting is one of the most important things, if not the most important. Now with bodyscapes, the lighting is very simple. It can be very simple. You need maybe one or two lights to do everything that you can think of with bodyscapes, because it's all, again, about contour, shadow, and light, and just how you mix those elements together to create something, hopefully a little abstract, hopefully something that stirs up the imagination, and it's pretty simple. Set your lights up at some kind of hard angle. Now we're talking about low-key images right now. Set up your light at an angle. You can use a modifier or no modifier. As a matter of fact, let me go ahead and show you one example. This is for the low-key look. Okay, I'm also going to show you one for the high-key look. This is the low-key look. I've got a black background setup that's seamless paper, a roll of seamless paper on a stand, and just a few feet ahead of that I've got really a coffee table, just a nice sturdy coffee table, and I've draped it with a black cloth. Over here on the side it's just a speed light on a stand with an umbrella that's a shoot-through modifier for that flash. And I've just got it, I mean, you can see where it's placed. It's right over here on the side. So my camera is off to one side, out of frame here of this behind the scenes shot, but I'm shooting just head on to that background and that table in there. So the light is actually 90 degrees off that axis. So it's not behind the subject, but depending on how I've got her posed and depending on where I'm shooting from, because I might go off center a little bit so that I can have that light coming in at a steeper angle. Depending on how I do that, I'm going to get different effects. So yeah, it's a really easy setup. It's practically a portrait setup. Just one light, that's all you need. And you can get some shots like this, and a lot of it just depends on how you frame and how you later crop and your exposure. So it's all pretty simple. You just need to know some of the basics. Now here is a high key setup. This is just one of them, and this is where I've got two flash units, no modifiers. They're just aimed sort of 45 degrees right at a light colored background, which in this case is the wall. And I've got that table still set up right there. So really all I'm doing here is just letting that light blast that wall. There's bounce back reflected light coming in from the other walls in the room, especially the one behind me. And so you just expose for that situation, and you have your subject either be kind of underexposed, or you can bump up that exposure a little bit, either in camera or in post. If you're shooting in RAW, hopefully you're shooting in RAW, so you've got a lot more room to work with, and just bump that up, and you can make your figure, your bodyscape, as light or as dark as you want to make it, using those two things in combination. Now look, the rest of this, and maybe even the most important part, or maybe even the most fun part, depending on how you like to work, the rest of this has to do with what you're doing in post. So you're editing, and we're talking about cropping and little adjustments that you can make, and even rotating the images. All right, this one is a good example. Now I've got my model posing in what would be more of an artistic nude or a figure study type pose, and what I did is I took that image, which is, you can see the lighting here. I have the light coming in at a pretty sharp angle, so it's just basically hitting the contours on one side of the body. So, and what I did was I brought that in post, I rotated, cropped, found this really nice little piece that would make a good bodyscape, and then that's what I did here. And so yeah, a lot of this has to do with discovery. It's just, you take your images, they might start off as wider shots, you go in post and you look for forms and shapes and just things that might make good bodyscapes, zoom in, crop, do whatever you want to find that little piece that just looks like it would make a good abstract, and then just tweak it, tweak the contrast, the sharpness, the lights and the darks. Just tweak that stuff until you get what you want. And here's a high key example where this starts off as almost more of a boudoir kind of image, and I just zoomed in on the torso, and I didn't even have to rotate it that much, but I got something that looks more like this, and I think it's just a really elegant look. It's something that you could put up on a wall. I think it looks kind of alabaster. It looks like a sculpture, and at the same time it's got kind of a creamy lighting about it. So I think it looks very cool, very artistic. So yeah, if you've been thinking about doing something along the lines of artistic nudes or figure studies, maybe give bodyscape photography a try. Maybe that should be your goal for your first couple of shoots when you're trying to do something like this. It's really easy to do. You don't really need more than one light, maybe two lights, and some creative post-processing adjustments, and you can create some really good works of art out of the human form. And getting back to what you can do in post-processing, I mean, just Lightroom or Photoshop or your favorite photo editor, a lot of your most creative choices are going to be made there after the shoot. So if you like to do a lot of photo editing, then that's going to be fun for you too. So just find the right model, preferably someone who has experience posing for pictures like these. It's going to make things a lot easier if this is just your first or second shoot and you're just starting to learn the ropes of this type of photography and how to work with the model. Work with somebody who's got a little bit of experience. If you've got to pay them, trust me, it'll be well worth the investment. And then later, as you go along, there'll probably be people who don't have as much experience with stuff like this, but you'll know exactly what you need to say to them to kind of get them prepared and work with them in front of the camera. And really, anybody at that point is going to be, it's just going to be easy for you to take another human being and create work out of their form. Now, I think this was a good overview, but if you want some in-depth instruction on how to do bodyscapes and figure studies and things like that, I've got some resources you can check out in the links below. I go into more detail about lighting and the post-processing techniques that I use. Go ahead and check that out. And hey, if you like this video, click that like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe. Leave me a comment. Thanks for hanging out with me again today, guys. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.